With the raid of the Witch Queen launching in just about a week, I decided it was a good idea to go through some of the loadouts I'll be bringing in. Starting off, I'll be on Voidwalker Warlock with Feed the Void and Child of the Old Gods. This is just so I can maintain Devour as much as possible, and also Child of the Old Gods with the suction of enemies to grant more class ability, more grenades, stuff like that, because I'll be running it alongside Empowering Rift, since I'll have Devour from Feed the Void and also the new Warlock exotic boots. I'm combining this with Vortex Grenade because it's a Vortex Grenade. It's probably one of the strongest grenades in the game at the moment. Combined with Echo of Undermining for the weaken effect, Echo of Expulsion for the explosions, Echo of Remnants so the grenade lasts longer, and Echo of Exchange for the melee final blows to grant grenade energy. Following that, I am going to be using a Elemental Well build, which basically makes sure I have Volatile Flow, which picking up an Elemental Well matching your picking up a Void Elemental Well grants your Void weapons volatile rounds, which when combined with Deafening Whisper or the new Recluse, Vouchsafe, Blinding Nade, Grenade Launcher, all of the things on your screen will be exploding, doing mad amount of damage, and it'll just make AdClear a lot easier when you're at contest mode. This will be combined with the Sectant Filaments exotic boots for Warlock. Whenever I proc my Rift, I'll get Devour, and also Overload. In case there's Overload champions, all your weapons will have Overload. I will probably be switching this over to Boots of Assembler, depending on how the raid goes, or Lunafaction if we have to switch over to Well of Radiance. Font of Might also, just so these Void weapons do even more damage. Royal Entry, Threaded Needle. The Font of Might is the only buff in the game that stacks with other damage buffs such as Well of Radiance, Bubble Titan, even Banner or Shield Titan at the moment, which is granting 40% damage buff if you're running, if you're not running Bubble but hold the right click for the giant Banner Shield. And then Well of Tenacity because, well, Charge with Light, Protective Light got nerfed down to 10% instead of 50%, and Well of Tenacity still gives the old 50% damage buff. Then up we have, this is probably what I'm going to start the raid off with, the Cinco Passion. It's a very good pulse rifle, I've been really enjoying using it. Deafening Whisper because of volatile rounds, and Font of Might, this just add clear like crazy. And Parasite, just in case there's any champions or beefy health bar targets that you just have to take out in a single shot. Parasite is really strong when you get it to times 20. I think it's something around like 190% damage buff. I am ready to switch to Gallarhorn in case we need to switch. Royal Entry for DPS, Threaded Needle, DPS. Other half, Eager's Edge, just in case something comes up where Eager's Edge is strong. It's also just a really fun weapon. And Sleeper, depending on the encounters. Parasite will mainly not be used as a DPS weapon in this raid, unless we have another A-track situation in Deep Stone Crypt, where you have to deal a mass amount of damage in just a few seconds. That's the only time I can see Parasite being used for DPS. Otherwise, it's just chunking down big enemy health bars. Next up for special weapons, we have Deafening Whisper. As I explained below, any Void weapons in this slot are mainly for Volatile Flow and Font of Might, because of just the sheer amount of AdClear potential you have. Recluse 2.0 is also really strong. We have Dead Messenger, which I'm sure you have used it by now. Being able to switch to all 3 elemental types on a Waveframe grenade launcher that shoots out 3 beams per shot. Really, really strong. Especially that we don't know what shield types will be in the raid or anything like that. On Void, it does stack with Volatile Flow. If you have it on Solar, it will create Warmind cells if you are using a Warmind cell build, which I'm not at the moment. Bows, you never know. Anti-barrier bows are this season. I do prefer Scour Rifles, that's why I have the Vouchsafe here. But you never know when a bow could have come in handy. I'm still trying to level this one up so I can get Archer's Tempo Explosive Head God Roll. And then Divinity, in case nobody else on my team wants to run Divinity, for the damage debuff that you get on the enemies and the massive crit spot you create just in case the crit spot on the enemy is quite bad. And obviously if you're using Div, you could use Xenophage in your heavy slot, but I do still think Sleeper Stimulant or Thread Needle, even Rockets will still be slightly stronger for that situation. In your primary slot, I already talked about the Syncopatience. Pulse rifle, it's really fun, really strong. I've been really liking it. Succession, in case we need to do some sniper DPS, like Deep Stone Crypt, where you had to use double special to try and get the boss down, otherwise it was very difficult. Slug shotguns could work, but since hot swapping got nerfed, I don't think it's going to be as needed as it was before. Obviously, you can bring them in if you want. I have everything in my vault that I just not fitting into my inventory at the moment. Striga, this is a very strong weapon with the catalyst. I think you get something like 100 rounds if you just get a precision kill. Wither Horde, once again, very strong area denial, add clear weapon. Same with boss DPS. You could stack Wither Horde with a lasting impression rocket, which I just realized I don't have in my inventory. So then you stick a lasting impression, stick a Wither Horde, and then maybe use like funnel web with volatile flow to just keep damaging, switching back and forth. Forensic Nightmare, I've only recently just got this. It's been a really good submachine gun. It doesn't really have any exceptional rolls, but Swashbuckler, or I'm currently going for Kill Clip on this weapon with perpetual motion is quite strong. You could go for Heating Up if you prefer the stability. The reload speed is quite bad on the submachine gun though, so I would recommend perpetual motion instead. Fatebringer, I mean it's Fatebringer, it will do a lot of damage as a primary hand cannon. Arbalist, in case there's like snipers or anything like that in the game with elemental shields that don't match your current element. It also just does a lot of damage as a linear fusion rifle. And then finally we also have a blinding grenade launcher. Blinding grenades, they did receive a damage nerf of 25% in this expansion, but I mean, you're not really ever going to be using a blinding grenade launcher for damage. It's more just area denial, crowd control, just making sure enemies don't do what they usually do, and that's just annihilate you in seconds. I would like to say my O-Ring Small and my secondary can swap between blinding and spike grenades with auto-loading, which I would recommend having a spike and a blinding launcher in both or one of the slots if you can. Obviously it might be a bit late, like we only have a few days before the raid, but if you do get a blinding grenade launcher, if you don't have one, that would be amazing. Same with a spike grenade launcher, you never know when they can be useful. And that's pretty much it for the build. Just the main parts of it are making sure I have volatile flow up as often as possible. That's why I have so many void weapons on my characters. Same with my DPS weapons are mainly void. Royal Entry with Font of Might and volatile flow I feel like could have a really strong chance of doing some mad DPS when combined with Gallarhorn, because once again Font of Might does stack with other damage buffs in the game. If you're playing on Titan, Bubble could be a good option if you don't have a lot of Warlocks running Well of Radiance. But if you do have Well of Radiance Warlocks, I would recommend any Titan going on Banner Shield instead, which is your Sentinel Shield throw, because the right click when you hold it, that puts up the massive shield, does a 40% damage Weapons of Light instead of the 25% that Bubble now gives. So maybe having one Bubble and all your other Titans go on Banner Shield would be strong, because 40% is still 40%, Well and Bubble only give 25%. I'm not sure what Font of Might is, it might be 15%. Also another thing, if you're maintaining the aspect that gives you weakening on your grenades, that you make sure you don't apply your grenade debuff if someone is running Divinity, because the 30% from Divinity will be overwritten by the 15% on your Overload grenade, meaning that you'll be doing 15% less damage if someone threw a Void Nade on top of a Divinity. Let's say you're DPSing a boss, someone puts up Div, and you throw a Void Nade, your damage will go down, so just make sure nobody's throwing Void Grenades if they have the Echo of Undermining, because Divinity damage does go down. And that's pretty much it. I don't really have any other weapons I'm currently grinding for. At the moment, there is the Grenade Launcher, the Tarnation. Has Chain Reaction on it. I don't really think you'll be using a Grenade Launcher for Adicler in the raid. Any other notable mentions in exotics? You can go in using Huckleberry, because it has pre-nerf Rampage, so it does 50% bonus damage when you get it to ×3. Lumina, maybe, if you're playing more of a support role. I've already mentioned Outbreak Perfected. It could be a decent DPS weapon on one of the bosses if everyone has the catalyst for more nanites. But because also the 40% damage buff from just regular adds. But as a whole, I don't really think there's anything else in here. Agar Scepter, once again, it did get a nerf though, where you can't have the perma charged beam all the time up anymore, because your super regen is stopped when you proc the charged beam. And that's pretty much it. Those are my weapons and my build going into the expansion. Just to go over once again, grenade launcher, ammo finder, this will be switched to whatever I have that I'm using in my heavy/special slots. Just this mod because 1 energy, in case I need to generate orbs, they're always useful. Reaping Wellmaker, for the fact that whenever I cast my Rift, my next kill is going to be a Void Elemental Well, once again feeding into Volatile Flow and Font of Might. And Well of Tenacity, giving me the 50% damage nerf. Which does only last like 6 seconds, but that's 6 seconds where you can't die. I would recommend having a Void chestplate so you can match a Void resistance with the artifact mod, giving you both Solar and Arc, so you have all 3 elements covered. Elemental Ordnance to create more wells using Void grenades or Solar grenades when you switch over to Solar. If you do switch to Well of Radiance, I would recommend using more Solar weapons. So whenever you get your kills with your grenade, you proc Font of Might, giving you bonus damage to stuff like Sleeper, Gallarhorn, Parasite. And finally, on my bond, I have Overload Void Grenades, Volatile Flow, and Devouring Depths. Which, whenever I pop my Nova Bomb, it's going to do mad damage when you have Devour active. And you will 99% of the time have Devour uptime because you're making it with your Rift, your grenades, your melee, everything is proccing Devour. And yeah, that's the build. I hope you enjoy your day 1 raid race, and best of luck.